Thank you. Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McMahon, thank you for being here. Nice to see you again. Let me just say this. The last 4 years have been, in many ways, absolutely hellacious for students on our college campuses. You had the last administration which issued federal rules, binding regulations that required our college campuses to put biological men into women's locker rooms. You've had multiple universities claiming the mandate, claiming the cover of the Biden administration, forcing women to accept biological men in women's sports. And so you've seen young woman after young woman denied basic safety in their changing facilities, for heaven's sake, basic safety in their dorm rooms, not able to play college sports. Now, I'm delighted that a federal court finally struck down this Biden administration rule back in January, just over a month ago. And President Trump issued a clear, strong, unequivocal executive order saying that Title IX will be enforced according to its terms, which is Title IX protects women's sports, it protects women on college campuses, no more men in women's locker rooms. This is a huge victory for common sense and the rule of law. My question to you is this. A number of universities, including some very prominent ones that love to call themselves elite, have said they're not going to follow that executive order. They're going to keep having men in women's locker rooms. They're going to try to get men in women's sports. What can be done to ensure that these colleges comply with the law and that women are safe on campus and that women are able to play sports without men interfering?
Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Conservative Chronicle. Today we're diving into a fiery Senate hearing where Josh Hawley calls out major universities for refusing to follow Trump's executive orders on gender and Title IX. This issue is sparking national debate. Should biological men be allowed in women's locker rooms in sports? Hawley says no, and he's making it clear that schools who ignore the law could face serious consequences. In this video, I'll break down what Hawley said and why it matters, how universities are reacting, what this means for federal funding and student rights. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss videos like this. Now, let's get into it.
Well,
Josh
certainly, I agree with you that I was very happy to see that those restrictions on Title IX vacated, so that we are really back to what Title IX was originally established to do, and that was to protect sexual discrimination. And women should feel safe in their locker rooms. They should feel safe in their spaces. They shouldn't have to be exposed to men undressing in front of them. I think I heard one person the other day say, well, the guys just should hold the shower curtain in front of them so that they aren't exposing themselves. I mean, really, that's just not what we should be doing. We want to make sure that Title IX, which is the law, is enforced. And we need to uphold that.
Will you investigate those universities that are not complying with Title IX, that are not complying with the president's executive order? These universities are absolutely getting federal funds from this department, the department that you're going to run if and when you are confirmed, and I believe you will be. Will you investigate those universities and give them an ultimatum? Either they need to comply with the law, they need to follow the law of Title IX, they need to follow the rules issued by this administration, your department, or no federal funding. I mean, will you make sure that the law is enforced?
Yes, we will make sure the law is enforced.
Very good. Let me ask you about...
Josh Hawley didn't hold back. In the Senate hearing, he blasted the Biden administration's policies that allowed biological men into women's spaces on college campuses. He celebrated the fact that a federal court struck down these rules in January, and Trump followed up with a clear executive order reinforcing Title IX protections for women. Hawley's argument is simple. Title IX was meant to protect women's rights, not redefine them. He says that colleges refusing to follow the law are putting female students at risk, not just in sports, but in locker rooms, dorms, and other private spaces. Do you think he has a point? Let me know in the comments. Now here's where it gets even crazier. According to Hawley, some of the biggest universities in the country, the ones that love to call themselves elite, are straight up ignoring Trump's executive order. These schools are still...
Don't worry, Ms. McMahon, it's me, it's not you. It's all right. That effect. Let me ask you about something else that's happened on our campuses in the last 4 years, the wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen, particularly after October 7th with the attacks on Israel. shameful attacks on Jewish students, Jewish American students, Jewish students from overseas. We have seen the most unbelievable pro-terrorist propaganda. And again, these universities taking federal money, getting federal funds, not protecting Jewish students, permitting encampments, permitting violence in some instances, attacks on students on their campuses. The president has issued an executive order on January the 29th on measures to combat anti-Semitism, and he directed the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights to open Title VI investigations into a number of universities, including Columbia, Berkeley, Northwestern. Will you enforce the law, Title VI to the hilt, and will you make sure that Jewish Americans are safe on our campuses, for heaven's sake, and these crazy students who are committing crimes, breaking windows, smashing into buildings, trapping Jewish students in libraries? Will you make sure that this stops on our college campuses that are getting all of this federal tax money?
Absolutely, or face defunding of their monies.
Very good. And let me ask you about something else.
These schools are still allowing biological men in women's locker rooms and sports, claiming that they don't recognize the new policy. But here's the catch. They're still taking millions in federal funding. Hawley asks a simple question. If these universities won't follow the law, why should taxpayers keep funding them? And that brings us to the next big question. What happens next? If you're still watching, that means you're loving this breakdown. Smash that like button and subscribe for more updates on these major political battles. So what can actually be done? Hawley directly asks Catherine McMahon, the nominee for a top education position, whether she will investigate and punish universities that refuse to comply. Her answer? Yes. She says that the Department of Education will enforce the law and ensure schools follow Title IX as originally intended. That means universities could soon face an ultimatum: follow the law or lose federal funding. This could be a major turning point in the battle over gender policies on campus. What do you think? Should schools be defunded if they refuse to comply? Drop a comment below.
Something else.
But wait.
For students who have come to this country on a student visa, and as you know, that's a lot of people on our college campuses. For students who are here on a student visa, who have threatened their fellow students, threatened Jewish students, who have supported terrorist organizations, who have broken our law by trespassing or vandalism or acts of violence against Jewish students, will you see that those students, that their visas are revoked and they are sent home and they're not allowed to stay on our campuses under cover of our laws, committing crimes and threatening our own students? Will you return some common sense to our campuses in this way?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Oh, but wait. Hawley didn't stop there. He also called out universities for their handling of anti-Semitism, especially after the October 7th attacks on Israel. He accused colleges of allowing pro-terrorist protests, Jewish students being harassed, and even violent attacks. And just like with Title IX, he demanded that the Department of Education take action against schools that fail to protect students. His solution? Defund universities that let anti-Semitic hate run wild. And once again, McMahon agreed that federal law must be enforced. This Senate hearing wasn't just about gender policies, it was about whether universities are following the law at all. So what's next? Well, now that McMahon has committed to enforcing these laws, we'll have to see if universities change their policies, or if they risk losing billions in federal funding. Will schools comply? Will lawsuits follow? This is just the beginning of the fight over Title IX and campus policies. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss updates as this story unfolds. Hit the like button and drop a comment. Do you agree with Hawley's stance, or do you think universities should have more freedom on these policies? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.